Hello, welcome back to DriveDriverDriven. Same shirt, different episode. I'm recording this after the last one, just so I could kind of get all that update out of the way, and now I can actually do some work on the car, break it up into 2 episodes rather than have one super long one. So today I'm actually working on the Zero. As I mentioned before, it has, 2 clogged fuel pumps, or stalled fuel pumps, whatever it is, such that if you try to key on, the extra load from the fuel pumps, even just one of them, blows the fuel pump fuse. So something's locked up real bad in there. So today's goal is to at least start at the back, which is the easier of the 2 to reach, and try and figure out what went wrong and then replace that pump. This car's been sitting for about a year and a half. It didn't seem like that long, and I had tried to keep it running or start it every month or so, and just that lapse from working on the Ultima and everything else going on, it just sat, and I didn't start it. And the end result was the ethanol fuel, I should say the whatever percentage of ethanol fuel that California gets, being that there was 91 in there, has broken down and has either corroded or clogged the fuel pumps. So let's get this fuel pump out and see what happens. So from the time lapse, you saw me put the jug in place, and the tank is slowly draining. The gas actually doesn't look too bad, at least so far. I'm not sure how much is left in the tank. The fuel gauge said about half a tank or so that might be like 4 gallons-ish, but we'll see what actually comes out. When I initially disconnected everything, no gas came out of the line. I don't know if that was due to corrosion or something plugging it up or whatever. I had to blow some air back into the tank to get rid of whatever was that was in there, or break it up enough that it would actually drain. So that's doing its thing. And I started pulling the fuel pump apart, and this nasty brown liquid came out of it. I don't want to call it water, but it was some nasty junk. And if you can look inside of there, this is what I'm seeing. It's just kind of, clear it out on here. The fuel pump is completely locked up due to whatever this gel or crystallization is. I don't know if this is just from the ethanol or the California additives, whatever it is. It's just completely filled and blocked the fuel pump. So you can see it in there. And there's a filter on top of the intake on this side, but I imagine it looks the same on the other side of that filter. And so kind of the job here is to pull this apart and put everything on the new fuel pump here. Now, I said these are Walbros, but I think these are actually 044 or the like. I think these are just knockoff pumps, which is not what I bought, but that's what I got. I don't see any branding on it whatsoever, so I imagine these are cheapy knockoffs. But they will probably do the trick for this car. As you can see, that's what the filter should look like in there. No debris, no nothing like that. There's a little bit of oil from manufacturing to lube it up, but before we put this together, we're gonna have to clean out our filter, because as you can see, we got the same kind of gunk in here. That's just what's coming out of this. I had a big old chunk of it here. So I'm going to see about separating these parts, and then we can clean the filter itself out. All right, so I got the filter apart. The two halves just simply unscrew. If you look inside there, you can see a lot of not only that garbage left over, but there's a lot of crystallization and corrosion inside of the actual filter housing. And then this is the filter element that sits inside. And I tried to clear some out, but as you can see, there's still tons and tons of garbage in there. I could probably clean these, but I don't think that's the smart thing to do. These aren't that expensive, and I have, well, I have other fuel filters I could pop in, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm just gonna go and get the same kind of XRP filter, slap it in there, and call it done. But unfortunately, that means I can't put the new pump in just yet. I don't know if anyone else has seen this kind of crystallization of gas. That's all that's in here. It's just fuel. 91 octane California fuel. There was no fuel additives or anything like that at the time. And that's what it's leaving behind, is this, whatever this crystallization is. And unfortunately, if this is what was in the fuel filter and the fuel pump, I'm worried that this same crystallization, this gunk, is in all of the fuel lines and our fuel injectors, everything all the way up. So before I put a new pump in, as you can see, our tank is still draining, but I might send a camera down into the tank and see if I see more of this stuff inside of there. If there is, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, other than maybe put some fresh gas through it and see if it'll break it down, and just keep pumping it in and out of the tank to flush the tank before I put another fuel pump in. And then likewise, try and flush the fuel lines in situ and get any garbage out of those before I try and fire this engine, because well, if this is all the way up to our, well, the pressure side, if this is in our sump tank, and if it's in the lines that go to our fuel injectors, then well, the whole fuel system is going to have to be redone, which is going to suck, because that's going to mean pulling all the old lines out and putting all the new ones in. The lines themselves are PTFE, or rubber, actually. I think they're rubber, so I don't imagine I'll see this kind of same corrosion inside of the rubber lines, but I'm worried about the fuel rail, the fuel injectors, and the fuel filter up front. So I think that might be the next area of exploration, is just pull the fuel rail off and inspect the fuel injectors, see what they look like. Okay, so from the time lapse you saw, took everything apart here, pulled off our fuel rail, which I have here, and just a quick look. I did find a little bit of corrosion and debris inside of these injector, whatever, pockets, whatever you want to call these. However, looking down the bore, I didn't see anything inside. I just cleaned it out, blew it out, cleaned up the cups, so the fuel rail is good. However, this is the worst of the fuel injectors. It's a little hard to see, but you can see there's a little bit of corrosion on the end. But looking down inside of there, I did see some of that same gunk, same corrosion down here inside the injector body. And unfortunately, I don't want to risk running these only to have them clog. This is one of those cases where injectors are cheap enough. I would rather replace an injector than a motor and, you know, burn the motor up. So I think just like with the fuel pumps and the fuel filter, I'm going to go ahead and replace the injectors as well. It's unfortunate these were brand new, but again, this is a matter of better safe than sorry. I could probably send these out to be, you know, cleaned and rebuilt, but, you know, whatever, I'll just replace them anyway. I did look down the bores from the injector pockets on this side, and then down inside of here. I didn't see any corrosion or anything like that inside the throttle bodies, inside of the injector pathway or anything like that. So I think at least motor side, it's all right. And then there's still plenty of fresh oil inside the motor itself. So once I do turn the motor over, it'll be able to lubricate everything inside. Next up is to dig our sump tank out, label and disconnect all the lines, and then see what that looks like and see what the fuel pump looks inside of that, and see if we're gonna find the same kind of corrosion. I'm willing to bet we are, and with all the lines disconnected, I think I'm gonna take the air hose and just blow through the lines and see if any corrosion comes out of the lines themselves. And if so, if I do find any corrosion in the lines, I'm going to try to flush it first. And if I still get debris after a few times, then unfortunately I think I'm going to pull and replace all of our fuel lines. Because again, I just don't want that debris in the fuel system, especially after we go through and replace everything. So next up is to try and dig out the sump down here. All right, so already I had to take this over to the bench to get it popped open, but as you can see, it's not looking great. I shall just pull these out here. I'll separate it. Okay, so same thing. Oh, some of this is just from the pan, but as you can see, we have the same kind of corrosion, and we have some corrosion inside here. I think that's more or less from dissimilar metal bimetallic corrosion. If you're wondering, as you can see here, it's an 034 Motorsport internal pump sump tank. I did have this on the Ultima previously, and it was in much better shape than this. Looking down in there, you can see, there it is, another good shot. All that garbage inside of there. Again, not sure what that either gel or crystallization is, maybe a little bit of both. The fuel that came out of this was relatively clear, but you can see we already have some of that same corrosion or gel, whatever, that fuel breakdown inside of this pump. And again, of course, on top, anything that was dried and crystallized on the top here corroded our contacts. I did blow out the return line, so from the front of the engine bay back to the fuel tank, which was hanging over this, and I did not see any corrosion in the lines. It seems like all this garbage was mostly from where fuel sat, and it wasn't sitting in the lines. It was either sitting in these fuel reservoirs or sitting in the tank. I haven't looked inside the tank yet, but I think I'm going to run some gas through it and flush it just to be sure. Yeah, so new fuel injectors, 2 new pumps. This can be cleaned out and rescued, but I think that's it. I think the motor's okay because, well, it couldn't get any fuel past all this garbage. And the motor turns over and builds oil pressure even without fuel, so I think that's okay. So what I need to do is just get these cleaned up, get everything put back together, get some new parts ordered, and we'll get everything back in the car and try and fire it up again. Speaking of, when it does fire, we're going to have to correct the fuel map and then give the whole car, the whole suspension, a quick once-over nut and bolt, because I don't remember where we left off, and if we want to drive this thing, we need to make sure we're safe, so we got to get that taken care of. All right, fast forward a bit, because my battery died, but I've got the new fuel pumps in. So again, one fuel pump is in here inside of our surge tank, and then, well, the other one is back here, sort of behind this panel. Something interesting I found was that the 2 pumps that I was using right here, oh, these are Bosch 044 like motorsport pumps, and what I wasn't aware of is they designated these as gas only, no alcohol, methanol, or ethanol, and it's in the whatever the manual or what have you for these Bosch pumps. I've used these for years in, well, basically all of my race cars, and I guess only recently, or somewhat recently, California started putting ethanol in all of the fuels, and because it sat with ethanol fuel in it, that's somehow inside the pump it broke down the ethanol into this whatever gel or crystalline kind of substance. Maybe that's the sugars breaking down, I don't know, but for whatever reason there was a reaction inside of the pumps that caused that. I don't know if some of that got past the filters and that was what clogged up our injectors here, if some of it got through and plugged those up. But for whatever case, all new injectors, all new pumps, all new filters, and the engine's actually hot now. I was just running it, and as you can see, I've actually got it off of the dollies over there now and onto its own wheels, and I was just kind of wheeling it back and forth in the driveway, trying to do a little bit of map tuning, just because, well, the ECU in this is meant for or rather it's tuned for a 2.5 liter, and this is a 2 liter, so I needed to trim some fuel out of it, but it's still pig rich whenever you hit the throttle. But I can start it and I can show you. RPM. It's got a big cam in it, so that's kind of expected. Give it a couple blips here. I'll never get tired of that sound. But if you look over here where our exhaust exits, so those big black clouds are what I'm trying to correct. So that's next. The other thing I still have to do is I have to replace this master cylinder, which I think is just a size too small, with this unit that I have sitting in here. I believe for you Miata guys, this is, I think, out of an Integra, and it's an upgraded cylinder common for Miatas. It's a common track Miata upgrade is to throw a Integra master cylinder in the Miata, because it's either an inch or just under an inch, something like that in size, and it's supposed to be a better match for big brakes. So like the big brakes that we have on the front and the rear of the Zero. So that's also kind of on the docket. And then just generally cleaning up the car, you can see just from it sitting, all the dust needs a good wash. And then I'll have to figure out our rear fenders, which I mentioned before, just got cracked here, and then as you can see, pulled through the body and then cracked here when it rolled off the dollies when we moved it earlier. Not too worried about it. The fenders themselves are removable. I can replace those at any time. It's kind of a bummer about the body down there, so we're gonna have to straighten this aluminum panel and put a new riv nut in there. Likewise for this side, this fender didn't get cracked as much, but it still pulled out of the aluminum down there. So we'll get that addressed, get those sorted out, and then basically start on the paperwork to get that street legal. So that's it for the Zero today. Well, I should say the last couple of days. It's been kind of a weekend for it. Trying to get those pumps sorted out, get everything replaced, and then get it running again. Making sure that we had good oil pressure, oil temps, that our water temps came up and then stayed steady. It did blow a little bit of coolant after I let it cool off, and it was just a case of some loose hose clamps. Like I said, it's been running for a bit now, and so far it hasn't blown any more coolant out of it. I might just need to top it off a little bit later. Next up is dyno day for the Ultima. That's going to be coming up this week. I'm looking forward to hopefully that being the last dyno session and getting all the little nagging issues sorted out with drivability. If I haven't mentioned before, and I'm pretty sure I have, I use Jay over at Black Tracks. Awesome dude, been around forever. He's tuned, I think, all of my cars now, and I, can't say enough good things about him. Totally stand-up guy. So I'll be headed back there with the Ultima again. We'll throw it on the dyno, see how much power it makes, but more importantly, just dial in that drivability. So I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.